Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, damsels and dingbats, to a Kerbal space program, game created by Squad. Kerbal Space Program is a multi-genre game where the players create their own space program. Pretty much you basically build spaceships. You know, you design and build your own spaceships and undergo missions, tasks that you can take from the space program. And by completing them, you gain money and research points, which you can then use to research new components, more advanced components for your spaceship, to create better, more efficient, sometimes even larger spacecraft to undertake more complex missions, and so forth and so on. Now, this game starts out pretty simple, and it's reasonably fun. These little Kerbals that we have here that we can see are they're kind of cute, you know. They got their own little character. I kind of like to think of them as like distant cousins to the Minions off of Despicable Me. But anyway, the thing with this game is it does have a bit of a learning curve. For example, getting yourself into space is not a big deal. Getting yourself into orbit around the planet's a little more complicated. Getting to the moon or flying past the moon, a little more complicated. Or getting to the moon, orbiting the moon, returning to the planet, landing back on the planet, a little more complicated. The further out you go, the more complex your task becomes. The challenge of the actual game, you know, is presented to the point where if you're making long distance travel to planets in the outer stretches of our solar system and landing and doing research and then getting back in your ship and coming back to Earth, there's a lot of math and a lot of depth involved in this game. Now, there are plenty of mods out there that can make this game simpler, but I'm not going to do enough videos on this game with you guys to need to get into that. I'm just going to basically show you how the game works and, you know, what it's kind of like. So, if you want to get into it more, you can check it out at the, do a Google search for Kerbal Space Program and take a look. Without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it. Take a look at this game. Alright, so to begin with, this is our space center. We have a space plane hangar. This is where we go to design, well, as it says, space planes. Basically craft designed to be launched from this runway here and then either travel as regular planes would or, you know, up into space. Here we have the vehicle assembly building. This functions the same as the space plane hangar, except this is where we build rockets, the style of vehicles that, you know, shoot straight up into the sky. This is our astronaut complex. If you go into the astronaut complex, you can actually see which Kerbals are available for missions and which Kerbals you have as applicants who, you know, wish to join your crew and be launched haphazardly into space. Up here we have, this is our money, how much money we have to spend on stuff. This is our research, how much research we've earned to research new parts. Coming back to our main screen, up here we can see how long we've been in-game, game time actually in-game, not real life, but, you know, how long it's been in the game's reality. We can speed up time here. This is usually useful for when your rocket's orbiting the planet or coming back to Kerbal or, you know, whatnot. I'm not really certain. I think this is your reputation. You start out kind of neutral, and the better you do, the higher your reputation gets, the easier it is for you to get funding and approval for new projects and stuff like that. The more in debt you go, the more projects you have that end in catastrophe, obviously, you go in the other direction. Over here, this is our administration building. You go here, you can actually get funding. You know, there's different things in here you can do. Like right now, I could get research rights and sell out. If I had research points, I could sell out my points for cash. Or I could get a bailout grant, which would give me money, but it would drop my reputation. So these are different things that you can do to adjust how, you know, your resources and how the game functions for limited amounts of time. So, coming back out, we have, let's see here, the launch pad itself out here is where your vehicle's going to go when you go to launch it. Not the space plane. The space plane uses the runway. but the rockets use the launch pad. Out here we have this tracking station. Anytime you have any missions, like, you know, when you have a... You can have, say if you send a ship to Saturn and the ship's coming back, you can come back to Kerbal and work on other things, and if you want to check on the status of that ship coming back to Kerbal, you come to the tracking station. Here we have research and development. As you earn research points, you come into here, and you can research different branches on the tech tree, and obviously the further along you go, the more advanced parts that you can use on your ship. What else do we got down here? Same part of the complex here. Administration, astronaut. Yeah, I think I've covered it all. Oh, mission control. Mission control. This is where you can go to specifically accept missions. For example, gather scientific data from Kerbal. So if I were to get in my ship, launch, and then land somewhere on the planet, let my astronaut out and gather research, and then complete the mission, come back, you know, I will get a reward for completing this mission in a set amount of time. Now, I have noticed in the past when I've played that you don't necessarily have to come in here and accept these. If you accomplish any one of these goals just through normal play, it seems to complete the task for you. You still get the reward. So, down here we have just basic information on different aspects of the game and how it works and how, you know, whatnot. Here you can view the contracts that you currently have. Right now I don't have any contracts. And then here, I believe, I don't remember for sure, but I believe this is like if you have a ship, like if you have a lander out somewhere or parts somewhere on the planet, you can click this and bring them back to your facility. So what I'm going to do to start us off is I'm actually going to I'm going to focus on my rocketry as opposed to my space planes. So I'm going to go ahead and go in here. And I'm actually going to see if I can't. Let me adjust this volume a little more. This is still one of those games that, like, it's still in development. I mean, it's been around for a while, don't get me wrong. I played this a long time ago. But there's still bugs. There's still things like the volume is really weird. You go to, you know, when you're out here, the volume's at a certain level, and then you go into a building and it gets louder. Then you go into space and it gets really quiet. Stuff like that. You know, it's really unimportant stuff that doesn't really affect the game. But, you know, I need to pay attention to it since I'm recording. Alright, so we're going to go back in here and we're going to build our first little vehicle. So, the first part of the vehicle we're going to need is the pod. This is the command pod, which is where our Kerbal is going to sit. Later on, you can research and develop pilotless, you know, automated craft. But right now, I don't have that research done. So, I don't have any fuel tanks. I do have some engines. I have no command and control units. I've got these basic modular girder segments that I have access to. I've got some basic fins. I have a parachute, which is handy. And then science, if I attach this mystery goo containment unit to my ship and use it in flight or in space, I gather science points, which I can claim, you know, once I've come back to the planet. So the first thing is I'm going to go ahead and put some engines on this. And if you come down here, you can toggle how many you want. Right now, this is just 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8. You know, so you can do up to 8 of them. I think I'm going to do 6. And what that means is I've selected this engine one time. So if I put it on here like this, it's going to give me 6 of them evenly spaced out and around. I don't want them at this angle like this. That just doesn't, you know... I don't think that's going to be very stable. So I'm actually going to structure, get my modular girder segment. And I'm going to put those. Okay, I'm going to put one down here. No, I only need one. Like so. And then I'm going to do 6 of those. off of this, like so. So now, when I put the engines on here, I'm going to have a straight up and down lift. Okay? Now for stability, let's put a fin on each of these, like so. Yeah, that's good. Okay, and we want a parachute so that we don't crash and burn on our way down. Now I only need one parachute. I'm going to put it right here in the middle. And then let's put a goo thing on here. I'm going to put it right here on the side so it's easy to get to. And we're going to give it a name. So this is going to be our first test launch. So I'm going to call this Spud 1, because he's a cute little Spud. Alright, then we're going to go to crew. We're going to determine right now parts with crew capacity. I have the command pod, and right now I have Jebediah Kerman in here. Now this bar here is experience. For every successful mission your astronaut goes on, you're going to gain experience with that astronaut, which is going to make him more capable of stuff throughout the game. You have different kinds of crew members. Jebediah is a pilot, so he's going to be the guy making this thing go where it needs to go. Then you have the engineer, which I'm not 100% certain exactly what the engineers do, but later when you have larger ships, I'm sure it has something to do with, you know, making everything work as it should. And then the scientists, I think, when you send them up, they help with the gathering and processing of data, science, research. Okay, over here, this is our phase area. And right now this says that when my rockets launch, my parachute's going to go off at the same time. I don't want that. So I'm going to add a phase, and I'm going to drag my rockets down to this phase. So that means the first time I hit the space bar, all 6 of these rockets are going to blast. And then when I hit the space bar again, the parachute will come out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the space bar, launch myself up until these run out of fuel, until I reach the peak of my arc. And then as I'm starting to come back down, once I'm in safe parachute distance, I'm going to hit the parachute. Now the thing with the parachute is, if you're coming in too high, like if you're coming in from space, and you put that space chute out too soon, it's going to burn up an atmosphere. So you want to pay attention to the safe distances for that chute. So if we go back into build here real quick, let's see, where's the chute? Oh, there's the chute. Okay, so it says here, max safe deploy speed, 264 meters a second. So, but we'll just we'll see. What happens is this will turn green. So right now we're just going to go ahead and accept. So we're going to actually we're going to go launch. Now launch pads, runways, all of the buildings and facilities can be upgraded. Right now this is just a dirt launch pad, and I've got my ship in here. You can see my Jebediah is down in there. This is the, you know, this measures your throttle, which you can do with, I believe, WASD. The G-forces on your pilot. This is your, it shows you, like, well, it should be obvious what that shows. Over here it tells you as you're going what stage you're in of these stages here. You can switch to different map modes and so forth. Up here we have the resources available in the ship still. Our contracts, that should look familiar. That should look familiar. So right now what we're going to do is we're going to launch. Okay. Up here is our altitude. Or no, this is how fast we're moving, and this is our altitude. So once we've completed the mission, we can either recover the vessel or go to the Space Center. So for now, we're just going to go ahead and launch. So we're going to hit the space bar. And away we go. Over here, you can see how much fuel is left in each of these boosters. Now later, we'll be able to launch up, and we'll have the technology. See how the parachute's red? That means don't use the parachute. That's stupid. Your parachute will burn up. You gotta wait till it turns green. But anyway, right now these boosters are permanent parts. So I'm gonna hit the space bar. Or no, I'm gonna wait till I get to my altitude here kind of peaks out. This is how fast I'm going. So when this slows down, and then it starts to drop, that's telling me that I'm starting to lose altitude. So at my peak, I want to go in and do my goos. But anyway, right now these are attached to the ship. They go where I go. And that can slow you down. Later on, we can research blast pads, which we can attach these to, so that when we launch up, once they cut out, we hit the blast pads, it'll eject these parts, and we can continue on our merry way. So I'm going to go ahead and do my Observe Mystery Goo here. Okay, so I can recover 7 science if I keep the experiment, or if I transmit it back to the surface, I can get plus 2.1 science. I'm just going to go ahead and keep the experiment. Now you see I am starting to drop. Okay, this means I can use the parachute now because it's white. Actually, it doesn't have to be green. It's white, so I can use the parachute now. And here pretty soon I think I'm going to. But the thing is with the parachute, of course, it only opens at a certain altitude. So if we use it now, we can either click it or use the space bar. Okay, so we have used the parachute. It is dragging behind us. But it's not going to open until we get to a certain altitude. So this is the part of the game where we just kind of sit back and wait. Or you can use the warp to speed it up. Now, I don't know if it still does it, but there used to be a glitch. Okay, green means the chute's opened. Alright. There used to be a glitch where if you were coming down like this and you were going too fast, you'd glitch out and you'd crash. So I'm not going to risk messing with that. Up here, it says that we can... Oh, this is the missions completed. So if we click this, we can see world's first milestones. I've broken a speed record, so I get 1 science and some money. I've launched our first vessel, so there's some money. I can't move this. That's annoying. But I can move this. Alright, so yeah, we broke a couple speed records. We broke 25 meters a second. We broke 80 meters a second. We broke 250 meters a second. 500 and... oh, I crashed. Okay. Basically, yeah, we get science for that. Now, what that was, thankfully, I did not destroy my pod. That was those engines hitting the ground at that speed. That's what detonated them. So that's why having those blast pads later is going to be good, because then when we come down, it's just going to be the pod. So right now, we have completed the mission, so we're going to go up here to Recover Vessel. This here gives you a mission summary. So I got 7 science for the mystery goo. And I got 5 science for recovering the vessel that survived the flight. Over here it shows the parts that survived the flight that I don't have to pay for again later. Basically, I get the money back from recovering these parts is what that is. And then the crew, this here tells you that he gained an experience point and he's ready for his next assignment. So I gained a total of 11 reputation up here, so you can see it's just barely moved. But I'll go ahead and click Done. And then now what we're going to do is we're going to go over here to the, because we have 17 research. So we're going to go over and hit the Research and Development site. Alright, so here in the Research and Development site, this is obviously, start is researched. I mean, start is the ultimate science. You can't go anywhere unless you know the start science. So, the first 2 options I have is I can either take Engineering 101, which will give me access to a science pod. I can do additional research, while I'm on my project. This is a radio antenna, which will allow me to broadcast. Remember earlier, you could either collect the data or you could broadcast it back to the planet. Well, we wouldn't have technically been able to broadcast it because we didn't have this antenna. But now we can. If we research this, we'll be able to broadcast it back. So we'll be able to broadcast data, say, from the goo, and then we can save the data from the Science Junior, and that'll give us, that much more science. And then here we have the stack decouplers. Basically what this is if I attach this to the bottom of my pod, and I attach rockets to the bottom of that, or a rocket to the bottom of that, when the rocket's done, if I hit spacebar, I can use this to blast that engine off of my rocket, like we were discussing earlier. So this is going to cost me 5 science if I want to take this, or I can come into basic rocketry, and I can get a swivel liquid fuel engine, which actually allows me to kind of better control the angle of my ascent or descent. It's also helpful in space for steering. Here is a hammer solid fuel booster. This is very similar to the smaller ones I just attached to our last ship, but they're obviously much bigger. And then we have a fuel tank, which is obviously needed for, here you can see that it's a liquid fuel engine as opposed to a solid fuel booster. So if I'm going to use the engine, which stays attached to the ship normally, I'm going to need a source of fuel. So that's what those are for, and that's 5. So I can actually do both, but right now I'm interested in getting the research. The more research I can get, the better. So now I can either do the rocketry, or I have access to stability, which gives me this aerodynamic nose cone, which will allow me, you know, when I'm shooting up into space, I don't have quite so much drag on me holding me back. I've got little winglets. It literally says nothing is really known about this thing. Use it at your own risk. But, you know, it looks cool on the ship, and actually I think this helps for stability, like when you're doing your space planes. And then these are the little radial decouplers that I was telling you about. They work like the other decouplers, except these can be mounted, instead of mounting them on the bottom of your, you know, whatever, these can be mounted on the side. And this costs 18 research to get this. I don't have enough for that. I've also got survivability. That's going to give me a heat shield, which is going to be very useful when I'm coming back down from the higher altitudes or re-entering the atmosphere. I've got a radiator panel, which kind of helps radiate heat, so I don't burn up on re-entry. I got some landing struts. I've also got a new type of chute that can be mounted at various places on my pod. The chute I've got right now can only be mounted at the top. This can be mounted along the sides, which means I can have more than one if I wanted to. So we've got 2 types of parachutes there, and a service bay. Basically, it's just like a little place where you can stow stuff. So later, if you want to go into space and, you know, collect stuff from space or launch something into space, the service bay is going to be where that stuff's kept. So right now, I have enough. I'm going to go ahead and get the basic rocketry as well. That's going to bring me down to 7. So now I have some more advanced components, and as I said, the way this game works, now I go back, and with the new parts I have, I can redesign my ship. So what I'm going to do, old Spuddy here, is I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these parts. Don't need this stuff. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is, if I go to Science, I want to put this Science Junior down here. That's going to be important. I need my goo. And my radio antenna. Okay, and then we go to the parachutes. We're going to put a parachute, but we already got a parachute on it, so we can get rid of that. How do I get rid of things? I forget. Delete. There we go. Okay. Structural. Now I can put this stack decoupler on the underside here, which means when this explodes, it'll separate this half of the ship from whatever's below it. So now I'm going to attach this modular girder segment, and we're going to do this again. We're going to use 6 engines again. So just like this. Command and control, I still don't have anything. We're going to go into engines, and we're going to use our big solid booster rockets. Alright, now see how this turned orange? Before it was like that, now it's orange. If you look here, it's telling you that of our 30 parts we're using 20. Of our mass limit we're using of 18 tons, we have 23.54 tons. So this thing is way over limit. It's not going to we can't build it this way. I mean, we can design it, but we're not going to be able to launch it. So what I need to do is I'm going to go ahead and exit out of here. This won't, as long as I don't exit the game, this will remain like this, so I can leave safely. Actually, that's changed, so I can save and continue. Now we're going to do 2 things. First of all, if we right-click on the vehicle assembly, we can upgrade it. This is going to allow increase our mass parts, and it gives us base and action groups. Of, actually, I don't need to increase this. What I want to do is increase escape. No. The launch pad is what I need to increase. It increases my max vessel size to 20, whatever that is. Max weight is 18 tons right now, so if I upgrade it for 50,000, what is... Okay, this I don't recognize. Fill all seats automatically. Okay, I'm not... I need to upgrade. Launch pad. Oh, upgrade. I click here. Okay. So now I've upgraded my launch pad, and if we take a look at it, or when we go to launch off of it, you'll see that it's not just a dirt pile anymore. So now it has a max vehicle size of 36, max weight of 140 tons. Okay, so we are definitely with our little ship. I gotta stop pushing these buttons. So if we go back in here, we're going to see that our little ship here is well within our limit now. So we are 23.5 tons of 140. So we can just keep adding more crap on here as long as we have the money. So I've got these boosters. These are going to get me a lot higher up. But what I want to go way up there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add one of these to the bottom of each of my rockets. Like that. And then I'm going to add another booster to the bottom. Just like, come on, just like that. Okay, and let's put some fins on here for structural stuff. I want to put one on each one, and I'll explain why here in a minute. So let's go through here. We've got our science, got our parachute, got our aerodynamics. Our engines are good. Don't need the fuel tank. Okay, so what's going to happen is over here we have our oh wait, I'm overweight again. Oh no, I'm over parts. Okay, so I've got too many parts, so I can get rid of these. Delete. And I still have too many parts, so maybe we'll go without the fins. 32. I'm 2 pieces over. Okay, so these, I have too many of these engines. Alright, so if I grab here, that'll separate that whole component from that part down, and it just turns it into 1. So instead of having 6, let's go with 4. And then we got to rotate it so that we are grabbing it by the right part, and then we're going to reattach it here. Now, if I had grabbed it by this part, it would have tried to attach this part to that. So I want to grab it by the framework here. So we're still good. Now we can actually add some wings back here because we're not over our parts count. I need to increase this facility to get more parts. So I'm still 2 over. So I guess I'm not going to use these no matter what I do. I don't get to use those. Not going to happen. All right. So our parts are good. We are well within our parts measure. So anyway, as I was saying over here, the last thing that's going to happen is the parachute. Then, if you highlight over it, you'll notice on the ship itself, the part highlights. So you can see the parachute's highlighted. Okay. Now, before that happens, actually, if we go from the bottom, the first thing that's going to happen is these 4 rockets are going to burn. Then when I hit the space bar, those 4 blocks are going to blow, which are going to blow off those 4 bottom rockets. Then I hit spacebar again, and then these 4 rockets will go. Hit spacebar again, and that will blow those rockets off of the rest of the ship, and then the last thing will be, of course, the parachute. So I like the way that's set up. That's the way I want it to function. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save this as Spud 2. Original. Creative. Alright, going to launch. Now, Jebediah is still in the capsule because this is the same capsule we used on the last ship. So, you know, apparently he just doesn't get out. Okay, so we are on the launch pad. I think if we hit T, that's going to activate our SAS. I don't remember exactly what that stands for. Actually, I can look it up in here. Controls? Rocketry. Well, basically, it allows, you know, as your ship's going up in the air, it's going to start to tilt, and it's possible it could start to wobble, and you use WASD to kind of keep it centered. You can manually control it, but if you turn on SAS, Jebediah will do it for us. So I just let him do that. So I'm going to go ahead and launch it. So I'm going to hit the space bar, and away we go. So we're going to watch our fuel. When it empties, we're going to hit the space bar twice. Once to break these off, the second time to ignite these. Now, there's a certain point in the atmosphere as you start to get into this region here, you don't want to be going too fast because you'll just blow up. So if you're up to about here, wait for a minute or two. Let your speed slow down a little bit and then hit your boosters again. As you can see, there's not a whole lot of detail to the planet. That's not what the game is focused on, so you can kind of see there are continents, there are oceans, there's probably a couple islands out here. Yeah, like that. But, you know, there aren't a lot of trees and stuff. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and drop those. They're going to fall away. We're going to hit, again, the spacebar. And that's going to carry us even further up. Already, we've got another thing here. Broken an altitude record, 7,000 meters. And, of course, probably going to break another one just because these are pretty big rockets. They're not the biggest you can get by any means, but compared to what we were just using, we've like quadrupled the horsepower of this thing. Now, I'm going pretty fast in that zone I was telling you about, so I might have some issues here. I could drop the rockets now to be safe, but I still got a lot of fuel in here, so I'm going to push my luck. Yep, see, that's what happened. These red bars are stress levels. I went too fast, my engine's overheated and took on too much strain, and that was the end of Jebediah. But what I can do is I can go, how do I do this? Go back here and go revert to launch. And then we can try it again. So let's go ahead and launch and get up there. Now I have one of two options here. I can either, between stages, between rockets, allow my speed to slow down considerably more. That way when I reach this altitude in the atmosphere, I'm not going quite so fast. Or I can just go balls to the wall, and when I get up about here and I start seeing those stress bars, I can eject those rockets and save myself from burning up. Oh, I forgot to turn on my SAS. So this is what happens when that happens. Jebediah was asleep at the wheel because I didn't give him the orders otherwise. So we're still gaining altitude, but now we're pointed in the wrong damn direction. And I don't have enough weight on the bottom of my ship to really do much about that. So when I hit these rockets, I'm going to lose altitude because I'm pointed down. But hopefully Jebediah will correct us, because otherwise we're going to pile drive into the planet. Yeah, here we go. Straight into the planet. Alright, so needless to say, let's revert flight one more time. And we'll remember to turn our SAS on this time. T for SAS. We got to wait for him to turn his comms on. Alright, so the SAS is on. The stability assist is what it's for. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and launch. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for my speed to die down considerably after the first rockets. That way I can get as much of the secondary rockets as possible. I'm going to lose a lot of maximum altitude, that point where if I could burn all of my rockets to their maximum, you know, that ceiling I would have reached theoretically, I'm going to lose a lot of altitude on that ceiling because I'm losing a lot of speed. But at the same time, I'm still going to get higher than I am if I blow up or if I'm forced to drop the fuel early. So up here at the top, you can see our altitude and numbers. And you can see they're moving pretty quick, so we're still traveling at a good speed. As we start to lose speed, this number is going to go down. Or it's not going to go down, it's just going to slow down. Then, when we peak out and start to fall, the number's going to go in the opposite direction. And the faster we fall, the faster that number will decrease. So you can see we're slowing down and we're starting to drop. So I'm going to hit my second set of boosters. The G-forces over here are not too bad. I slowed down enough that I should not have a lot of problems here. But I'm going to keep an eye out on this anyway. The moment I see one of those bars, I'm going to hit that space bar. I'm almost out of fuel anyway, so I think we're going to be good. Nope. Alright, so we dropped those rockets. It's still pushing me. It's still pushing me. Oh, man. Okay. So it looks like we're just going too fast. So we got to slow down a little bit more. So we're going to try this. We're going to try this one more time, and then we're going to be out of time for the video. So instead of going and redesigning the vehicle, we're going to continue on with what we've got. SAS on. We're just going to cut these. The problem is with these initial rockets, when these blow, these drop away. The rockets drop away. But when this blows, these rockets, since they still have fuel and they're still going, they're pushing up on this framework and on this pad, which is pushing up on me. So when these blow up, I'm still within proximity of these guys. So I need to break away from them long enough for their weight to pull them down away from me so that if they do blow up, they're not going to take me with it. No, maybe I probably shouldn't have used these big guys. I probably should have used the little guys on this stage. But, you know, I don't have time to worry about that right now. So we're going to do the best with what we have. We're going to wait till this slows down considerably. I want to peak out. And actually, I could either do that or I could use the other rockets now to give me maximum speed coming through. That's too late to worry about it now. So, yeah, this area right in here is the danger zone. I forget what they call this part of the atmosphere, but this is the outer edge of the atmosphere just before you reach space. And I guess there's considerable pressure differences in here, and that affects these guys. That's what those aerodynamic domes that I can research later are for, is to keep the drag and the resistance down so that that type of stuff doesn't happen. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and burn these about halfway. Go up to about this mark here, and then I'm going to break them off. And then hopefully they will steer away from my ship a little bit. I don't think they're going to. I think I'm going to blow up again. Oh, that's a bunch of crap. Oh, blow me up. All right, yeah, that blew me up. Okay, well, so as you can see, what this is illustrating is that there is some element of realism to the game. So you're not just going to put 5,000 rockets on your pod and blast it through your atmosphere at warp 2. You're going to disintegrate. The game takes that into account. So that's actually fairly cool. So you have to learn to adjust. You have to learn to redesign your ship to accomplish what it is you want to do. Now, I'll probably do one more episode for this, just so that we can see what it's like to have a ship to get out of the atmosphere into space and maybe head off towards the moon. I'm not going to do a big series on this, but I did want to. I have enjoyed playing it in the past, and I did want to show it to you. So, unfortunately for this episode, we're out of time. So I'm going to go ahead and end it here, and I'm going to thank you again for watching. Feel free to comment and subscribe if you would like. Feel free to like if you would like. Until next time, I've been your host, DM Renavion, saying stay safe, have fun. I'm out.